Greetings, friends. This is Elizabeth Schermer with a message for the Sagittarius lunar eclipse that occurred a couple of days ago on Friday, June 5th at 12:12 p.m. Pacific time. This eclipse effect is going to unfold. It's a much larger field than just than a normal full moon. So the fact that I'm a couple of days late bringing this to you is a measure indeed of the power of the eclipse, and the effects are referencing the very beginning of our year as we're in a midpoint of a huge cycle. This is a year of revolution. There is no doubt about the revolution that we are experiencing. And so my intention with this message today is to bring some context to the opportunities and the blessings behind the suffering and intensity and dismantling that is all around and within us. The universe never offers more than we can handle. The degree of intensity, because the universe is based on wholeness, the degree of intensity of an experience always signifies the degree of the opportunity for healing. This is part of universal law. Our challenge right now is to transcend the intensity of the personal experience using our tools, our spiritual tools and our tools of consciousness, to transcend our perceptions of being stuck within the chaos of change, in order to connect with higher principles. It's these higher principles of wholeness that will provide us with solutions and new creative visions of what we can create together moving forward. So absolutely a new level of uncertainty and change has opened in the last few weeks. That's why I didn't bring the message forward on Friday, because as I set aside the afternoon to meditate for our work together with the eclipse, I just was really pulled into that field of the shadow that opens whenever there's an eclipse. Shadows are not bad. Shadows reveal what has been hidden in order for us to heal. And every eclipse opens is an opportunity for an opening of new awareness in order to reclaim what's been lost or separated. So the opportunities now and the necessity now is for us to use our tools to connect with the messages of opportunity that exist in frequencies above the perceptions of fear and isolation and separation and suffering. It doesn't mean to escape, it's quite the opposite. Our work is to be fully present, to own this history of our collective and what's being revealed and what's being exposed. And this is all timed in a great cycle of revolution. This is a real revolution. It's a revolution of consciousness and awareness. And so the cycle, we're at midpoint in a full year-long cycle that is orchestrated in beautiful ways to support us through the intensity of this year. The cycle began in the very first days of 2020 with the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. And this is a 500-year cycle of revolution. And what the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn brings every 500 years is a dismantling of power structures that have crystallized and no longer serve individual freedom. As we are moving into the age of Aquarius, these new consciousness levels of individual freedom and movement to the heart are amplified even more. And what happened with that conjunction in early January was that it coincided with a lunar eclipse in Cancer. The sun was in Capricorn, the moon was in Cancer, and we are now 6 months later having another eclipse. In 2 weeks we will have an eclipse, a solar eclipse in Cancer. So there's a harmonic here that is encouraging us to trust in the larger cycles of time and our ability to transcend our habits and thoughts of limitation so that we can be full participants in the new birth that is happening. We are sovereign in this world. We are supported by beings of light throughout our galaxy, throughout our universe, and yet we are the ones here. We are the ones in this particular story and drama of the history of life in this world, and we are the ones who are healing the patterns of imbalance. And so I say that to say that the challenge is ours, and also we have so much support behind us to encourage us, to offer tools, and to give us visions and ideas and dreams and understandings of what really is possible as we evolve beyond our perceptions of being stuck, of being at war with each other, into new worlds and realms that are more in alignment with the freedom and health and vitality and life that is the sovereign birthright of all beings. That's what we're creating here. So, let's see, might be a little bit longer message than usual, but there are a couple of really powerful principles I want to bring forward. The message of hope and faith and trust, again, is not escapism. It's not superficial. It's in alignment with universal law and principles of healing that can help us receive the tools we need to navigate the challenges that face us right now. So the astrology chart for the eclipse shows the sun almost exactly conjunct Venus. The sun transited Venus just 2 days before the eclipse. And then this is the full moon with the moon in Sagittarius. Sun and Venus in Gemini, full moon in Sagittarius, and then this beautiful T-square with Mars and Neptune conjunct in Pisces. A T-square always represents a need to make a choice, a need to take action. There's a pressure to act. The square can represent feeling constrained or constricted. That's the shadow of a square, because the square holds enormous possibility for change. And so our challenge right now is to harness the possibility for change that's present within this eclipse. An eclipse opens an opportunity for new consciousness. The shadow, when the Earth comes between the sun and the moon at the full moon and creates a shadow on the moon, when the sun and moon are disconnected temporarily, what happens is an illumination of what's been hidden. So every eclipse offers an opportunity for us to connect with new consciousness. This eclipse had an extraordinarily strong shadow. What that shadow represents is our ability. We are receiving all the tools we need to use our emotional strength and our will to connect to the truth of the shadow that's being revealed, as opposed to illusions and distractions and distortions and fear-based belief systems. So the signature of the T-square is a flow of inspiration. The principle I'm using with this new flow of inspiration is the word prayer, because prayer to me is a representation of the process of feeling, of the intensity of a desire, the intensity of awareness of a need, with a surrender to receive guidance from a level higher than my personality. So it's an inner prayer, is an inner alignment with a desire for support and help, and a willingness to receive and new insights, new understandings, or new healing that perhaps I haven't been available to before. The practice that's available now is our opportunity to come to new alignment, of a true alignment with inner authority and our ability to receive and to trust our guidance, and to live in faith of higher principles that can guide us forward, as opposed to old patterns that we've been trained to trust outer authority and to look for information and confirmation of our guidance from outside sources. So it's such a big topic. What I would like to do now is dive into the piece that I can contribute, which is to this conversation, which is a connection to this world of symbolic language and an interface of using the system of tarot with our personal guidance along with the current astrology. The beauty of the Thoth deck that I use is that it integrates astrology with all other principles of Western, what we call Hermeticism or Western mystery traditions, so that the messages that come forward when we ask for guidance at each of these new moon and full moon cycles, the messages that come forward are very much integrated with the present time. And today's reading is really spectacular, and I'll share that with you now. So first, I want to just share that images for Sagittarius, especially for those of you who do cards, work with the cards. The major arcana card for this Sagittarius eclipse is the Art card, which represents your connection to the alchemy of consciousness, your ability to work with polarity and duality. There are many images here that are paralleled by images on the card for Gemini, because Sagittarius enables us to work with systems of philosophy and systems of what we would call magic, learning to interact with the consciousness of material world and the consciousness of light and love in order to create, to heal and create. So Sagittarius is a beautiful energy to connect with right now, the alchemy of consciousness. And then the two cards, other cards associated with the position of the moon were the Nine of Wands, called Strength, representing your alignment to your inner truth. The sun represents, the image of the sun here represents your crown chakra and your opening to solar consciousness. The image of the moon at your root represents your connection to your subconscious, to the rhythms and powers of time. And then the strong red line is your vertical column. This is a card I use to represent the significance and importance of all of our personal practices, keeping us aligned. And then the court card for this phase of Sagittarius is the Knight of Wands, representing your courage and willingness to connect with your will and your spiritual truth in order to move forward in your life in ways that are in alignment with the highest and best for yourself and others. That's my current favorite mantra right now, is the highest and best. I don't know what the highest and best is, but I know if I commit above and below and ask to be of service to the highest and best and release my own ideas about who and what that might be, then I am able to receive the impulses for the day, the next step moving forward. So, having said that, let's dive into the spread. So I pulled this spread Friday morning. I meditated. I was awake almost all night. I was feeling, as I know many of you were, because I've talked to several of you this over the last couple of days, I know many other people were affected by the heaviness of the portal that of this eclipse, of the shadow of this eclipse. It's real. The shadow of our collective psyche here and what's being called for healing is real. The suffering, the anger, the volatility that's being expressed is a healthy exposure of what's been hidden. The challenge is how we move forward together to integrate these energies. And that's what I'm and all of us are praying every day, how we can show up for the highest and best together. So I meditated Friday morning, and the first card that appeared was a beautiful affirmation, which is the Nine of Wands. And so the Nine of Wands is a spectacular image of the eclipse itself. Look at all those moons. The arrows in Sagittarius represent your commitment to connect to your higher self. The archer of Sagittarius is ultimately releasing arrows of desire, and the highest desire is on your own path of connection to the sun at the top here, of your own connection to your higher self and source and illuminated awareness. So I just was first blown away by the synchronicity of this being the card for the position of the moon, and then also the beauty that it illustrates. This is the card for the sun in Sagittarius, the alignment and activation of Sagittarian energy, and an affirmation that this eclipse is empowering. This is the card of strength for the deck. This is a card of coming into your power and the full experience of your power and what it means to be an illuminated being. What this represents right now is the eclipse itself. Our ability to show up for the shadow of what's been buried, which is that moon at the bottom, and our ability to then bring that shadow into light through our own alignment with our truth. Okay, so that's the center in the position of mind, an affirmation. Now here's what was phenomenal about this spread. I was meditating, asking what we need to know. I'd been awake all night, meditating with the portal and feeling the heaviness and the sorrow of what's being exposed and the suffering and the struggle that we are engaged in as a people. So I was very much in that energy, asking what we need to know about this eclipse, how we can show up for the opportunity rather than be taken down by the heaviness of this. So the card I'm going to actually show you all 3 cards because it's an amazing synchronicity. We received 3 5s. I don't know that that's ever happened before. In the position of body is the 5 of Cups, called disappointment. In the position of mind is spirit, is the 5 of discs, worry. And then, so I'm going to say a little bit about these 2 and then show you the third 5. So 5s represent transformation. 5s represent the processes of life that enable us to transform and evolve. In Tarot, the 5s are challenge cards because whenever we're faced with processes of transformation, we have to heal what's being exposed by the release in order to grow. So growth is another way to talk about the 5s. So what's being exposed right now in our circumstances is highlighted by the 5 of Cups, disappointment. Our awareness of emotional sorrow, the heaviness we feel for those who are suffering, and for our lineage and our legacy of imbalance and a legacy of suffering in this world, and the ways our systems, what we have called democracy, haven't served everyone. Sagittarius represents systems that we value, the systems that bring us systems of philosophy and spirituality that inspire us and express our spiritual beliefs into values. And so the 5 of Cups represents authentic sorrow and disappointment and sadness and heaviness in what we're witnessing, and then it's also in the body. So it represents the way that's affecting us. It's the heaviness we feel because we are holding space and witnessing and experiencing suffering of others. Perhaps we're suffering ourselves, and all of that is encapsulated here. It's acknowledging it, the emotional quality of sadness that we're all carrying right now. And then in the position of spirit, the 5 of discs, worry. The 5 of discs, worry, represents, in the position of spirit, represents our fears that things are very wrong. Worry that things won't work out. The 5 of discs are the suit of the physical world. And so this represents our fear that we have been forgotten, that these problems are insurmountable. We can't imagine solutions to what's happening. What's happening is beyond what we could have imagined. And so we are scared and afraid, and it's easy to worry right now and lose our confidence because of the shock and trauma of events, to lose our confidence in the laws of the universe that provide our foundation. So it's an acknowledgement. This spread is a really interesting and powerful acknowledgement of the field of shadow that's being exposed right now. And then the third card is the Five of Swords. So 3 fives. The significance here, and something else to consider, the fourth card, excuse me, is that this 5 is reversed. The other 2 fives are upright, signifying the activation of these patterns. The 5 of Swords represents, again, a transformation, and this one is in the mind, processes of growth and healing that bring up fears of defeat. It's called defeat. The fear in the mind that things are not going to work out. So something else to consider is the reversal of that energy. This, interestingly, is Venus. The astrology of this card is Venus in Aquarius. Venus was conjunct the full moon. Venus is also in retrograde right now, and there's a powerful energy right now. Venus is connected to our heart, to what we value, to what we believe, to what we know is true. And the retrograde quality is unearthing and exposing what we need to feel, what we need to see, what we need to experience, especially with the dual nature of Gemini. This quality of Venus in Gemini is allowing us to feel the truth of what is being exposed, to see with new eyes through our heart. And that's the synchronicity of the reversal of this 5 of Swords. It's showing you in your upright position, being able to receive the light of new consciousness and new awareness. Venus in Aquarius. So that 5 turned upright when we can commit. So here's how this spread unlocked. And I sat with this spread for 24 hours before I was shown the next step. I wasn't going to bring a spread to you that had all Bardo cards. I prayed for what's the elevated message, and I didn't receive it till the next morning. Yesterday morning. So the 5 of Swords, when we can show up and commit to our hearts and ask, this is like, you could talk about this as prayer, to choose to bring the intensity into our hearts and ask for new realizations, as opposed to patterns of being afraid by what we see externally, which leads to defeat. When we are able to show up that way, then the energy totally transforms. And that's the signature of the 5s. 5s represent processes of transformation. So when this energy transforms, here's what happens. When we pray, when we show up in our hearts and say that we will be of service, the 5s turn to 6s. So this is what I was shown the next day in my meditation on this spread, was that when we show up, the 5s turn to 6s, which are all cards of blessing and harmony. And where's our 6 of Swords? Blessing and harmony and higher consciousness. These are cards of healing. And so what your guides and what our helpers want us to know right now is that we are on path for blessings. We are on path for healing. We are on path for new realizations. This is a year in a cycle that is hundreds of years long, in patterns that are thousands of years long. We're in the middle of this year. The year began with the Pluto-Saturn conjunction and lunar eclipse in Cancer on, I think it was January 10th was the eclipse. And the cycle culminates with what's called the Great Conjunction. I might start crying because it's so important. The Great Conjunction of Pluto, of Saturn, and Jupiter, which happens more regularly, happens though in this great cycle of this year. It's a great conjunction of the 2 biggest lights in our sky, next to the sun and moon, the 2 greatest planets coming together exactly on winter solstice. The seed of new birth, the birth of a new age. So there's a way in which this year can be seen because of the strength of all of the transits with Pluto, who is the great transformer, the rise of the individual into the age of Aquarius. This year, with the synchronicity of all these powerful events of revolution, is indeed in many ways the dawning of the Aquarian age, with the ending of the Great Conjunction, with the seed. Oh, the punchline of the Great Conjunction is that it's at 1 Aquarius. There are no accidents here. Everything is orchestrated for us to rise, to connect together, to overcome our challenges and our beliefs of limitation, to claim our sovereignty in this world as beings of light, to support each other in committing to the values of freedom and health and truth for all, and then to join in the adventure of the opportunity to build anew. So let's trust together. Remember, we're not alone. The universe resonates. What the message I received this morning as I was preparing to bring this forward is the galaxy is resonating with our call and our requests for help. And so know that we have the help we need and that this is a process. The Six of Cups is saying in practical language, take care of yourself in the position of body. Six of Cups pleasure is emotional congruence in the heart, emotional stability, emotional trust and confidence. It's the ability to commit to feeling good even in the midst of difficulty and challenge, to nourish yourself and nourish others. Joy is the frequency that heals. Love and joy are the frequencies that heal. So we need to do our best to support each other in the midst of challenge, to feel good. That's how we will be able to help others. The Six of Discs is called success. It's the blessing card in the deck. It represents the flowering of new creation. Remember, 6 is the earth realm, and so the Six of Discs is the full flowering, the full manifestation of light. And so this in the position of spirit says trust. In order to participate, we need to commit to our inner light as opposed to focusing on outer experiences, and that is anchored by the final card, the Six of Swords, science, harmony of the mind. The point of awareness now is that we need to use the power of our mind. This is one of the cards of Aquarian consciousness. We need to use the powers of our mind to focus. And remember that what we focus on is what we create. Our emotions and our minds together are our power tools as co-creators. So if we choose appreciation, we choose trust and confidence in our emotional bodies, and then we choose to focus on our visions of truth, of what is possible, we are unstoppable. So what's important right now is to commit to thoughts and emotions that nourish you. It's easy to be distracted right now by images of destruction, images of violence, disturbing images. The more we feed our brains and our hearts with those images, the more we are fatigued. So receive enough information so that you have a context, but don't attach to it, and keep returning to your inner truth so that you can show up for your part in all of this. We each have a part to play. And the rising of Aquarian consciousness is the rising of individual empowerment. It's not the rising of a system that's going to rescue us. It's the rising of millions of people who are living in their hearts with new awareness of unity and how we are connected as opposed to how we are separated. So we are holding space for the healing, not just of ourselves, but of our human family. No blame here. The universe does not blame. We are owning responsibility for the patterns we've created, and we are holding space for how those patterns can be healed, and we will receive the support we need to create those changes together. This is how the universe works. So I'd like to end with, I've been feeling the presence lately a lot of Rumi and Hafiz, who are Sufi poets, powerful poets from the Middle Ages, and their messages still resonate very much today. And in this time of opposition and conflict, the amplification of the ways we're separated, these words resonate so truly. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. This field is the field of unity awareness. It's where we are evolving it, and some of us call it the field of 5D. It's the field of the heart. And so we are evolving into that field. We're transcending these old stories. So Rumi continues, when the soul lies down in that grass, in that field of the unified heart, when the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense anymore. We are one. So, in your prayers, hold fierce intention to be present to the truth of who you are, to the truth of what is possible, and willingness to surrender whatever isn't necessary in order to heal and expand. And in that way, you participate directly in the healing and expansion for all of us. We are gathering in that field beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing. So thank you for your participation. This is Elizabeth Schermer with our message for the Sagittarius lunar eclipse of June 5th. Thank you.